and welcome to today's webinar, Lessons in the Rearview Mirror, Gaining Perspective for the Road Ahead, presented by Creative Solutions and QRM. QRM is an in-house rehab management company that works with skilled nursing facilities all across the country. We also provide MDS education and training, medical review, compliance assistance, and marketing services. Visit qrmhealth.com to discover more about QRM and its services. My name is Amy, and I will be your moderator for this session. I will now pass it off to Susan Kroll, who is QRM's Chief Strategy Officer, and she will introduce today's presenter.
Great. Thank you, Amy. And thank you for those who have joined us and taken time out of your very busy day to listen in on our presentation today. We're so happy to have Kelly Roberts with us. She is right next to me, so if I look that way, that's why. So, we were chatting with a pack-in on what could be a very meaningful topic for this session together. We wanted to collaborate, and really we have heard so much, and APACN has heard so much about the frustrations in the industry right now with all the disruption with COVID and the changes coming ahead in October. How can everybody continue to move forward successfully while they're grappling with all of this change and disruption in their days? So I had just been to Kelly's annual MDS conference and knew that she had incredibly valuable insight, and I knew that it would be helpful to share that with the industry. So just to tell you a little bit about Kelly. Kelly is the VP of Clinical Reimbursement for Creative Solutions. She has been for the past 17 years. And she's also been a long-term APACN member, and she has grown with Creative from 16 to 131 buildings. So change is not something new to her. And her first and second regionals are still with her. So she's doing some things right, clearly. She's grown now to currently 20 regionals, 180 MDS case managers, and Creative's 131 Texas-based skilled nursing facilities. And to note, their growth was over 50% during COVID. And some statistics that prove that her systems and processes and approach are effective. They have a 97.2% success rate with OIG audits of revenue audited. They've retained over 99.6% of that revenue, and over 98% of ADRs and payments are validated. It's amazing. It goes on and on. And, they're retaining their revenue. They're growing their revenue. They're growing their business, retaining their employees. On average, maybe 10 open positions at a time. And that's incredible in this time in place. So I really want to, move forward with this presentation and have Kelly share with you some of her tips and tricks. It's fantastic. So I want to share with you Kelly Roberts.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Susan, for inviting me and enjoying a nice afternoon together. So one of the how I felt like I could help my fellow MDS case managers and everyone in this business is just, again, sharing a couple of things that our company has been able to accomplish, some culture type systems that we have in place that hopefully will help you. And Susan feels like it's beneficial. So I am happy to help in any capacity I can.
Thank you. And we have a famous quote, right? So there's a reason why your windshield is bigger than your rearview mirror. Where you're headed is much more important than what you left behind. However, for us in long-term care, Kelly's got a little bit of a twist and a new perspective on that. So Kelly?
So if we flip the script, right, and flip that quote, what if ours was, there's a reason why your windshield is bigger than your rearview mirror. What we left behind was the hardest times in our SNF industry, the MDS industry in history. And what we learned about ourselves makes us stronger and more focused on the road ahead.
So we boiled this discussion to 4 major bullet points, right? What does it take to consistently implement MDS systems? How do you engage your IDT members? How do you, identify efficient ways to validate the accuracy of your assessments, which I really enjoy what Kelly has to say there. And then what are some ideas for MDS change implementation? So I know you'll enjoy this time together. We wish you were sitting here with us so we could have this as a very casual conversation, but I know that you will have some valuable takeaways. So Kelly, thank you again. Take it away.
Thank you, Susan. Before I get started, I just want to make sure that I communicate this part of the presentation is that we don't always give ourselves enough credit. We have a unique skill set with MDS completion and the whole REI process. And so if you do complete that in your facility, just take a deep breath and know that you are smart, intelligent, and extremely valuable to the nursing facility industry, and give yourself credit. So let's look at the road ahead. So what does it take to implement these changes that are coming in a couple of weeks in October? Thinking about what does it take? First of all, for the growth that my company has been able to see over the last 17 years and with those great outcomes, is a solid foundation is a must. So it's the solid foundation of systems. We are a system-oriented built industry, and it does not fail to ensure that in the facilities you have those systems that are solid. Systems should be efficient. Systems should be fact-based and survey-based. Another important part is the engagement, and that's the engagement expectation of the IDT team. And what does it mean to you? What does engaging the IDT mean to you? Validating assessments, thinking about what is your current process. And when we think about it, how many times are you actually auditing that MDS? It's multiple times over the life of that one MDS you're completing, either formally or informally. You're constantly validating that data that goes into that MDS. And then looking at outcomes, prioritizing the needs. Prioritize your individual needs based on your past outcomes. What do you need to improve on? What needs to be reviewed, looked at, any changes? And think about, what are you trying to accomplish on the outcomes? Are they your outcomes? Is it the employee outcomes? Or is it the residents' outcomes? And so I think it's important to have a clear plan of what are we trying to achieve here? And then with the MDS change, looking at what is your current system? What needs to change in that current system? And then how do you need to change it? And then be very creative with your ideas. What I've found that works for me is very short and creative periods of time with information throughout week after week, or throughout, a time frame, rather than give all the information at one time. It's very difficult for your direct care staff, your nursing, dietary activities, all the IDT folks that are part of your team, to be able to digest all the changes all at one time. So be able to have that creative idea for short time period to deliver an efficient and succinct message. That's been helpful for creative solutions with implementation. Now, the reason that whenever we discussed the theme, so to speak, for the webinar, I love the windshield, because that's how I see the MDS. The MDS is the windshield, right? And so you can see all the things that MDS impacts, from quality measures, financial reimbursement. It drives care planning, health surveys, ADR audits, OIG audits, the CMS MDS schizophrenia audits, which I have a little bit of experience in that based on some audits over the last couple of months. PASSAR program, medical necessity, consumer reports, interdisciplinary team members. We could go on and on and on. But whenever you're looking at your windshield, those are all the systems that MDS impacts, and it's huge. And so understanding the MDS and all the areas that it impacts, and not only the MDS understanding, but it's important that the interdisciplinary team members understand the impact of all the different programs and systems and processes that MDS touches. It's enormous, and it gets a little overwhelming. But again, if we put it in perspective, I think it's easier to digest all the different nuances of that MDS. So the first area is we can look at implementing the MDS systems. And I'm just sharing a couple of things that works for us. And hopefully there's a little nugget in here that could help you with your programs. So the first area is assessing. So taking inventory of what the MDS impacts, And then what are your current systems? Are they efficient and sufficient to be able to maximize that area that the MDS impacts? And here's the most important part is, can you replicate the system over and over again? And so Susan's asked a couple of times in the years that we've known each other, how do you do this? How do you successfully, acquire and bring on 10 nursing facilities at a time, and 10 at a time, 2 at a time, 1 at a time? It's because we have one system. We can have one system with 16 nursing facilities or one system with 131. As long as the system works, it's tight, and everyone does the same process over and over the exact same way. That's what it takes to be able to replicate that system over and over and over again. And we're constantly evolving and changing and taking recommendations and implementing. And so I think that's what keeps that as a living, breathing piece of our daily work. Again, system, right? And then the next would be collecting. So you need to take inventory of your documentation system. All the documentation, that's your main source, right, of your MDS. And so it's important to constantly look and take inventory. What does our documentation system look like? And one of the areas there, I think that's important is an efficient documentation system? Do you have an efficient training system is the other piece for nursing or direct care staff, dietary activities. What type of training program is developed and then implemented for those different disciplines is also very important as well. Reading is reviewing the documentation and determine what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Now, a big area that I feel like our company doesn't struggle with, it's not a creative solutions struggle, so to speak. I think it's our industry struggle, is going from paper to an electronic health record. And we just thought everything was going to be great. Electronic health record, everything will be in the system, easy to find, easy to see, easy to do. And it is depending on how you have your system set up. So here's a couple of areas that I think that's important to review and think about is, do you have documents that are uploaded into your electronic health record? Do you have providers that document? Do they email the documentation to someone at the nursing facility and they in turn upload into the system? Or is it integrated? Or is it emailed? Is it faxed? How do these other disciplines that not necessarily document in your electronic health record, how does that get into the record? And so you have a complete review of the resident's clinical record in one shot. What about your labs? What about your x-rays? Are they integrated or are they electronically uploaded into your system? Those are all the different pieces that I think is important to take inventory to be able to then read a medical record and efficiently, effectively be able to collect the data, review the data, read the data, and then determine what's coded on the MDS. And if you have something missing, why? Why do we have this missing and who's responsible? And again, it's always going back to that system and just keeping that system maintained and reviewed. It's like taking your car to the shop. You have regular oil changes. Well, this MDS needs a regular checkup as well. Then the next piece would be to analyze. Is that strategically looking at everything that's around us? What overlaps? What's redundant? You can't look at two windshields at the same time. It's one windshield. So what are the system? We work really hard at, is it redundant? Are we documenting two different places, two different reasons? But it's for one outcome, which is that MDS, and it would serve purposes for both. And so we look at what can we, put together, what overlaps, what's redundant, what do we take out, constantly analyzing the under the hood of the car, so to speak, to make sure that it's a well maintained, functioned process. And then here's the fun part. So now that all that hard work is completed, it's in your rearview mirror. Now the fun part is you get to see all of it in the windshield in front of you after all that hard work. That part to me is the fun part. And so looking at the MDS systems, it's a big windshield, right? And if you're constantly looking in your rearview mirror, you're not able to see what's ahead of you. So from an MDS perspective, I think it's important to understand, how do you start your day? and just take a little bit of time thinking about that question. How do I start my day? The planning for your day takes place the day before. And this is what we try to help with our MDS case managers that work in the facility, the regional reimbursement nurses that work with me on my team. We look at the end of the day, we're making a list of our priorities, not a long list, because you're not going to be able to do the full long list. And then that's a little frustrating, but what's your priorities? So spend about 10 minutes at the end of the day to then determine what is my priority for tomorrow? What must be accomplished tomorrow? And that way, whenever you start your day, it's fresh, you have your priorities, and then you kind of know where to go quickly to be able to accomplish your goals. That's also integrating your MDS schedule. What are my assessments? That tomorrow is the ARD is tomorrow. And I have to complete these assessments. This is the last ARD, the look back, and then what's on the next day and the next day. And if that's your week, that's your priority for those MDSs to be completed. And that's how you can stay on track and have timely completion of those MDSs. Another piece to think about is your meetings and your schedule from 2 times. Creating a routine, it's important for everyone. You have routine checkups, routine maintenance on a vehicle. We have our routines that and rituals that we do. It just makes your life a little bit more predictable. And we can be predictable in the MDS world because of the stringent schedules, the stringent meetings that are conducted. It's important to be able to say, what are my meetings? And it's scheduled from this time to this time. Carve that out. And so you have a calendar for the week, and you're already carving out 8:30 to 9 every single day for your revenue meeting, whatever your company does. And so whatever time is left over, that's the money, right? That's where you're wanting to then be able to implement, put into your schedule for that day, what MDSs are due, what needs to be accomplished today, et cetera, et cetera. So you have a better understanding of where do I spend my time and where do I need to spend my time based on your schedule. And then what's efficient and what's inefficient. Be able to determine that. If a meeting is not efficient, well, why is that? What's discussed? What's the agenda? What's the topic? Who is involved? And you're always constantly reworking and redesigning and just making sure that everything is tip-top shape. Now, going back to the systems, keeping a systematic approach, of course, and then support. And I'll share one of the support pieces that Creative Solutions has put into place. And this was back in 2010 when we went RUGS 3 to RUGS 4 for Medicare. And we had all these new assessments. You had a COT, end of therapy. And if you were around during that time, you're shaking your head and go, oh my gosh, I remember that. You went from MDS 2.0 to 3.0. It was just huge changes at that time. And from my personal opinion, if I was an MDS case manager in a facility at that time frame, I would have a very difficult time just learning my new role, learning the new job, learning the new MDS. There was a lot to learn. So what we did is we created what we call a Medicare hotline. And there were specific questions that could go to this hotline. It's an email address or it's a telephone number for a fax. Back then we did a ton of faxes. I know a lot of us still do. But you could fax in a question, you could email in a question, whatever it may be. And it was basically kind of think about a customer service hotline, really is what it is, to where there's someone manning that hotline 24/7, including holidays. We've never skipped a day since 2010, since we implemented, and it'll have its, I think, 14th birthday coming up very soon. We always celebrate the birthday of the Medicare hotline because it really changed not just our processes, but the goal stuck and the culture stuck. And what that goal was is how can we support an MDS case manager at a facility in real time when they have a question and they don't know the path forward? Or the bigger piece would be, I think I know, I'm not sure if I know, I just need to bounce this off to see if I'm on the right track. And so it's became a secondary support system. Many times it's the primary support system. It prevents you from having to pick up the phone, call someone, It's efficient because the email comes through, and our goal is within an hour, all of those questions are answered, recommendations are provided, and it's just grown within our culture and with our company as we've seen growth. And it's been almost another person, right? It's really another support person that helps us. So that helps us. I hope that might be something that you might be able to implement within your organization, utilizing efficiency reports to see what are we doing with our time. So APACN has a time study that's great resources. Creative Solutions also we did our own time study to see, how long does it take? Here's the bottom line. How long does it take average to complete a certain type of MDS, right? Comprehensive admission, an annual comprehensive significant change, discharge, entry even. And so what we're doing is we're putting a time frame. How long does it take to complete this MDS? Then we look at all the MDSs that have been completed, compare that to the hours worked, and then you get basically what we call an efficiency percentage. How efficient are we? What percentage of our time is spent strictly on MDSs? That does not include, any state forms have to be completed, any PASSAR meetings that are involved. It's strictly MDS to see where do we need to provide support. And typically we don't run those all the time. It's only as needed. So if we have an MDS case manager that says, I can't get this all done, I just can't do this. I don't have enough time, then we can use that efficiency report to determine, we need additional staff because there's more MDSs than there is time in the facility for an MDS to even be able to complete. Prevents burnout, and then it helps with the accuracy of the assessment, right? The other piece there is it could be that there's some time management assistance that we can provide if the efficiency is a low efficiency percentage, where are we spending all of our time? And then you can go back and go, where's your calendar? Where's your schedule? What are we doing and how are we doing that? And it really does help with not just the efficiency, it helps with the accuracy, helps with decrease in burnout. It helps retain in staff. Because really, we just want to be able to do the right thing every day. And we want to be able to do our work. We just want to be able to be efficient in that work. And it's only fair to be able to give that opportunity to the most important piece of my job, which is the folks that work in the nursing facilities, because I work for them and they know that. And then the regional perspective. So if you're in a role where you have regionals that report to you, or you are a regional, one of the systems there that we are constantly looking at making sure that it's the best it possibly can be is, one, your audits. Are the audits efficient? Are they inefficient? Is it the best use of your time? And with technology, you can leverage that software. You can leverage your technology that impacts your outcomes. What you guys have seen this, I'm sure, just as much as I have, where you have the more time goes on, the better and more efficient the technology is for us. And so that allows us to be able to revamp our processes constantly, because if a computer can do a step for me, I want that computer to do that step for me. And it's really caused us to say, okay, all that background work, it's right there in front of you. This is what I need to go do. And it just that you have a not as much more time. It's just a better use of the time that you do have available, I've found. So always looking at, what do we have? What's our technology? Has it advanced? If technology has advanced, then we need to advance in how we operate on a daily. So that's kind of the MDS part of it and those systems. The next piece would be engaging the IDT. And this is such it's a great question that Susan asked me several times throughout, the last couple of years that we've worked together. And how do we do that? How do we get engaged? How do we get folks excited? And so here's first blush thinking about it is, you may drive the car and see all the MDS items in your windshield, but trust me, it takes everyone to maintain a proficient and effective set of wheels. So we need IDT's expertise. And so just thinking about that, 4 words, we need IDT expertise. The we is we're all in this together. The MDS is not a me job, it's a we job. Need really equals accuracy, compliance, and taking care of the resident. And then understanding who is part of the IDT. And that's the team that participates in the care of the residents. And what contributions do you make? So you have to understand, what is my role in the IDT program, system, process, and what do I need to do? What do I need to bring to the table to be able to provide the expertise that I have to take care of the resident? So think about the expertise in your facility, because we don't give ourselves enough credit. Think of all of the IDT in your facility that have been trained for this work. We went to school for this work. You have degrees, you have certificates. You've got to understand, what is your role and why are you there? Understand the rationale for why you do what you do and what your role is in the nursing facility. And I think with that perspective, it really you start thinking about it a little bit different. And so what we've tried to do is really create this is your position. Why are you here? What do you contribute? What's the part that you contribute? And if you ask a dietary supervisor or social service director, what do you do here? They're going to be able to tell you what they do. Okay, leverage that expertise to make sure that it's part of the IDT process, because at the end of the day, the IDT is surrounded by taking care of the resident. So that's one way you can think about it. You need IDT expertise. Creating a routine, it's overwhelming at times. I understand. I have extreme empathy for everyone, but implementing a consistent routine will help you engage your IDT. What role do you play? What role does each member have in the system? That's extremely important, because if you don't know what your role is, you don't know how to contribute, and then you don't know how to measure your outcomes and if you're successful or not. Engaging partners, even like your payers, managed care payers, PASAR, hospice, there's all the IDT folks that you don't think about because they don't necessarily work in the nursing facility, but they do contribute to the overall care of the resident. So engaging those folks that are outside of the facility as well. And then soliciting feedback from the one that has the most important feedback of all, and that's the residents. They are part of that IDT as well. And what their opinions, their real opinions, that's what really matters. And so don't forget your residents that are part of your IDT as well. The next part would be validating assessments. And this is near and dear to my heart. I love doing this. When I worked as an MDS case manager in a facility, for me, this was just, I don't know why, but it was a fun part for me. And that's reviewing the chart, writing down the date and the location of the date as you gather that data. It's extremely important because you've completed that assessment, you've completed the MDS. The last thing you want to do is have to go all the way back through that record again to identify where's the date and the location of the documentation that I found in order to gather that data. So do it as you go along. At the time of coding the MDS, be mindful of coding the MDS. Will this item on the MDS, will it trigger a PDPM case mix group? Will it trigger a CAW? Will it trigger any item for Medicaid revenue? Will it trigger a quality measure? So as you're coding the MDS, understanding this item here impacts 5 things on my windshield, be mindful of that, because that's your next cue to say, I need to do something after the completion of the MDS, whether it's a care plan, et cetera, et cetera. So being aware of all those items as you're coding, use your analytics, use your tools, your scrubbers, whatever you may have. The technology, if we use it for what it's created for, it will really make your life so much easier. And you kind of have a partner, right? So I'm the only MDS case manager. Yeah, but you kind of have a partner in your analytics and your tools and your scrubbers and your technology. So see that as a positive. And then the triple check. So that's just at the end of the month. All that is making one last sweep of your billing to be able to say, yes, it's correct billing, it's true billing, it's accurate, we're in compliance. When you do that, you've got all of the data that you've collected throughout the month. So it's one last sweep of your cheat sheets that you've created, your notes that you've written down, tracking logs, etc., prior to the billing. So with the triple check meetings, this is how our philosophy on that is, that's not the first time that you've seen, right, a HIPS code or a diagnosis on the specific resident's a claim. That should be just a quick review of, yes, it's correct, because you've already validated that throughout the lifetime of that MDS that you've completed. So saving notes, collecting notes is extremely important as well. Continuing on the validating. So validate, there's many opportunities to validate your MDS and what goes on that MDS. Just a quick example that stuck with me for a very, very long time is a diuretic. If you have a diuretic, you code it on the MDS as a diuretic, well, your work isn't done. If it's a comprehensive, right, you're going to have a call that's going to trigger based on the diuretic, because you know that's one of the areas that triggers. So you're already planning ahead that you need to, your call's coming up, you have to work your call, then you've got to develop the care plan. You know that's coming. And so being prepared for that kind of makes your routine a little bit easier as well. Or another example is an antipsychotic. An antipsychotic coded on your MDS, you know, you're going to have to plan for that quality measure. You're going to have to ensure the care plan's there. A GDR is going to be expected. So what's the outcome of coding an antipsychotic, and what areas of the windshield does it impact that you know that you'll have to address? Same with the diagnosis. Whenever you see a PDPM HIPS code, go, well, does this HIPS code make sense based on the diagnoses that you know that's on the MDS, or it's in your electronic health record, or you saw it in a progress note? That all goes on, boom, your PDPM HIPS code. Be able to become familiar with that HIPS code and what it means and how it's derived. What's the first, second, third, fourth character, and what does that really mean? Because quickly you'll just be able to see that, review it, and that's another way you're validating your assessments. That doesn't look right. Why doesn't it look right? Because you know what the fourth digit should be based on your completion of that MDS, and it'll help you make sure that we haven't missed something with the coding, or even the data entry piece of it could just have a little mistakes. But you'll know that if you know all those areas of the HIPS code, it's helpful as well. And then here's just the $1 million question. Every time that we have change with our MDSs, which is every October, we've kind of trained for changes that have occurred throughout the years. What's guaranteed, you're going to have a change every single October at a minimum. So understand, what is your action plan, right? Well, CMS, for these changes that are occurring October of this year, CMS has a great action plan on their website, on the SNF-QRP website. APACN has a great tool to be able to map out what your plan is for the changes that are coming up, which are extensive. And then think about smart and efficient process changes. You don't want to reinvent the whole wheel. You don't even need to submit for another windshield, right? You don't have a cracked windshield. It's just a one piece of a certain area needs to be modified, added, train the staff, train for, you're going to see something new, and here's why you're going to see it. Here's what you're going to see and why you're seeing it and what we need to do. And more importantly, then here's on the windshield, here's the outcome of that. So again, just smart, efficient process changes. And it'll kind of help you be able to say, put it in a perspective. It's really not that hard this year. We can make this work because we already have a system in place. And then again, getting the word out, big ways, small ways. One of the things that we've done in Creative is create one fact sheet. So it's one sheet with the facts of each section and what's changing. Not a lot of great detail, but just, something is changing in this section. And then that way it's easier to digest and it's easier to get small communication out, but it's going to impact in really, really big ways. Small doable doses is what we like to call that. One area that gets it's the GG, section GG. And I'm right there with you if your shoulders kind of dropped and if you even sighed just a little bit. But let's look at GG and in that section, and I'll share a couple of things that what Creative Solutions is we're trying to accomplish here, as well as number one, train. So using the train the trainer approach is extremely important. What look back period do you have for GG with documentation that will be used to be able to do your end of the day, your coding, right? And it's a 3-day look back. So one idea is create a UDA for coding, give the rationale, who's interviewed and the date within that look back period, make that piece a little bit easier on you, but creating really smart, and UDAs, that's a PCC term, user defined assessment. Everyone has a form that you would use. So looking at that form, what is the easiest way to get the documentation that makes sense for the end user, which it could be your charge nurses, if you're using your direct care staff, therapy, MDS, whomever it is, how to make the simplest form, but yet it's efficient and it's effective. And it has all of the pieces of your GG that you're going to need. Then incorporate GG into vocabulary at all levels. And why I say that is it's a different language, right? Then let's say section G, it's a different language. And so let's start incorporating the vocabulary from direct care staff, charge nurses, supervisors, nurse management, administrators, activities, dietary, everyone that's in the nursing facility, incorporating that GG language at all levels, so we all are speaking the same language and staying on task there. One of the areas that could help you potentially is a GG training wall. We have a specific place in our nursing facility, every facility is different, where we'll have material on this training wall that would have the performance scale, all the GG items and the definitions, the decision tree, even probing questions. We have that handout, so to speak, and on that wall. And the goal of this would be, hey, Susan, I need an interview for this resident. MDS is completed. Meet me at the training wall. So everyone knows where to meet. And then all your material is on the wall for you to point to or read and see. And so you're not memorizing all of the different almost 30 items on section GG, and you're not having to memorize all the definitions of the performance scale. And so if you have a place you can go where it's there and it's cueing you, even as the interviewer, it's extremely helpful, I feel like. So we're putting that in place. And everyone's extremely excited about it. And if you're a little creative, it's a fun time to be able to create your training wall. And embrace. And here's the deal. And this is what I embrace section GG. It's not going away. It's been around since 2016 and it's not going away anytime soon. So we need to embrace that GG and create an expert GG coder, designate someone that's willing to take on that role. And then again, have backups for your expert GG coder. And then feedback is extremely important to be able to praise and recognize and show appreciation for all of the staff in the facility that's working day in and day out, not just taking care of the residents, but now flipping their script and flipping their switch and understanding that, oh, there's changes. And what I've always understood it to be now changes in October. And so that's also, everyone needs to have that praise, recognition, and appreciation for the hard work that they do in the nursing facilities. Perspective, another way of looking at this is, for years, we couldn't see our windshield, right? During that COVID years, it was the hardest time in our industry. For me, once we were able to move out of COVID and move out of the public health emergency, there was just a freedom I felt. Because anything I see now moving forward from an MDS change perspective, that's the easy part. Where we came from was the hard part, the hardest part that we've ever had to deal with. And so anything after that, to me, it's a bonus. So these changes coming up in October, that's a bonus. It's not hard. That's the easy part, because I know hard and you know hard now, the difference between that. leveraging your technology, and it's better every single day. And add it to your daily startup. Again, maximizing and leaning on the technology that you have. The main thing that helps me is being able to explain what your role is in this whole MDS process. What do we have to do? How do we have to do it? And really, why do we have to do it? So one of the areas that you hear every once in a while, or I hear every once in a while, is, I don't know, I had to do this. Corporate just told me I had to. Or CMS requires us to do it. I don't know. It's goofy. I don't know why I got to do it. But CMS, well, let's sit back and go, why do we have to do this? And understanding it, and then understand now, what's my role in implementing this new process that we have, and really taking ownership of that. So sometimes we have a role misperception. Life is a lot easier when we understand what our role is and what we're contributing, because then you can control that and improve that, and improve your outcomes. And then working in threes. Work in threes, meaning if you have a to-do list and a priority list, do three things and then mark those off. And what's my next three? And what's my next three? So basically, working in threes helps me not get so overwhelmed with what my to-do list is. And then I can accomplish, once I mark those three off, okay, I'm ready to tackle the next three. Small, doable doses is what it takes to be consistent and stay in it for the long haul, the long run. I'm almost to my 30th year in this industry. And how do you do that? How do you get there? What's your, how do you get to almost 30 years? It's small, doable doses and understanding what my role is. And then communicating. We don't give this enough credit. How do you communicate? Do you email? Do you text your team members, the IDT? What's the most effective way for you to deliver your message? Every organization's a little bit different, but what's the most effective way for you to do it? And then implement those. And everyone communicate the same way. It sounds silly. We also create at Creative Solutions a culture of language, meaning we use and speak the same language for the MDS. And so sometimes it's easy to go, you make up your own word or term for whatever that may be. But if I don't understand what you're saying and what you mean and what you're trying to tell me, because I don't understand your language, I'm not going to understand, and I'm not going to be able to help you. And so one of the part of having a system you can replicate over and over and over, it starts with the language. And so we use the same terminology for everything related to MDS. That way we understand each other from the very beginning, and we're not spending time going, I think this is what they meant, but I'm really not sure, because then I don't know how to support you if I don't really truly understand what you're saying and what you mean. So using the same language is extremely important in our organization, and hopefully that little tip might help you. Knowing your process, knowing your systems. A quick example is, what managed care insurances are you contracted with? And what do they require? Because each requires something a little bit different, all the different nuances. So where's your cheat sheet or your checklist or your whatever you may use to be able to identify, here's the insurance, here's what they require from a prior auth and continued auth. Those type processes. So having that quickly at your fingertips to be able to quickly look and see, it's going to save you so much time. And then you'll communicate effectively, and then be able to in turn treat the resident receives the needs, and you can effectively bill, which is appropriate to be able to do that. Diagnoses for Part B claims sounds small, but if we communicate on the daily, all the diagnoses for that Part B claim in order to do the triple check at the end of the month and have a clean claim, that process is throughout the whole month. So even communicating, where do you get the diagnoses for the Part B claims? It's going to be, let's say, therapy. Well, how do you communicate with therapy on a daily basis whenever communication needs to occur? And then what's your role in that diagnosis? Are you the one that puts it into your computer system so it's in your electronic health record and it falls over to your UB at the end of the month? understanding what that process is, and then being able to communicate that process. And then what does your state OIG require for GG coding? Those questions you may not even know right now, but that's something to think about. So that's being able to communicate back and forth with your state OIG. What will they require? What does CMS require? What do some of your payers require currently with your skilled claims with the GG coding? And so understanding what that role is and what that looks like, and then ensuring that the documentation is going to support what your specific state will require and what they're going to be looking at. And then meetings. So one of the areas that might help you is with creative solutions for a clinical reimbursement perspective. Anytime that there's a meeting that's required, and there's 4 meetings that are a requirement throughout the month for that department, is we have an agenda for the meeting. We communicate effectively to the attendees, meaning here's the agenda. It's going to have the flow of the meeting, what's discussed. It's also going to, who needs to be there, why they need to be there, what do they need to bring to be prepared, what do you do after the meeting, what do you do with the information that you received during the meeting. And so it just makes it a lot easier to be able to understand, I need to go to this meeting, but why? Because you don't want to have wasted time, because that time is accounted for somewhere within your schedule, and it just prevents you from having a little bit more stress of not being able to get your work done. But it helps you be able to be effective in that meeting, staying on task, staying on track. And then you have new team members that come onto your IDT. It helps them be able to understand, okay, I know my role. I know why I'm there. I know what I need to bring. I know what I need to be prepared for. And I know the data that I need to gather and collect throughout that meeting, what I'm responsible for, and then what to do with it afterwards. And so that's really an idea that you can think about. Oh, our meetings, yes, let's put something formal in place. That way everyone understands, again, what their role is in that meeting. Going on to looking at, this sounds funny, chalk money marbles. Susan asked me, explain that to me a little bit, because it's a little bit different. But this is ideas for motivating your team. And when we talked about praising and showing appreciation and thanking the team members for either even documentation or attending a meeting and being prepared, or meeting at the GG wall and really grasping the GG different topics and the items in the performance, to be able to give back to them, to be able to show them how we appreciate them. And everyone's different. And so this is what this perspective is being a leader of your nursing facility. It's important to understand what motivates your team. Some team members are motivated by chalk or money or marbles. And so we can go through real quick what that means. And so chalk ideas, here's what this means is, some folks are motivated by seeing their name on a board for outstanding outcomes, or recognizing their birthday, recognizing their work anniversary, or if a family or a resident writes a review of the staff that helped them, for them to see their name. Basically, you're seeing your name somewhere. And that's what motivates you, because everyone's a little different. Having a rehab resident of the month, and why? You're also motivating your residents, right? It's not just the staff, but also bringing your residents into that fold, in that mix. Recognizing a team member in a staff meeting, calling their name out. Why am I thanking you? This is what you did, and this is why you need to know how much we appreciate you. Sending emailing a thank you note, a paper certificate award, or even a simple thank you card. Just depending on understanding, again, the folks that you work with, alongside with, or that help you throughout the day, recognizing, is that person motivated by chalk? And if so, seeing their name and lights. It's something that you can be, just be aware of, and be able to recognize them in small ways, that it doesn't cost a thing to be nice, doesn't cost a thing to be kind. And as many emails as we send out every day, to send a thank you email to someone really does help them, and it also helps you. Money ideas, there's only so much you could potentially do, but think about it as money ideas that does motivate some people. And so looking at a bonus, rewards, compensation, or even a meal a month doesn't take a lot of money to be able to recognize someone doing a great job. And hey, the meal a month goes to Susan Carl for next month. So again, it's recognition, big or small. A leader recognizes what motivates people that work for them. And what helps me and keeps me in perspective is myself as a leader. I recognize what motivates the people that I work for, because I work for every MDS case manager. We have almost 190 within our organization. I work for 190 different MDS case managers, and I work for 20 different regional reimbursement nurses. And so from that perspective, that's how I try to give back to and show appreciation for everyone that works in the department. And some marble ideas. So marble, just think about it as stuff. It's just stuff. Giving something that's not compensation, doesn't have their name on it, is a marble idea. And you may have folks that are motivated by marbles. Could be little things. What motivates them? Could be a soda or a Coke if you live in Texas, in the South. A soda or a candy bar. Flowers. You can have pizza night, or a housewarming gift, or a car warming gift. So how many, a staff member that has saved up for so long for a new home, and they move into this new home, a housewarming gift goes so far. Or they just bought their first car. Well, what about a car warming gift? It doesn't need to take a lot of money or a lot of time, but it shows that you appreciate them and you recognize them and you're honoring them. And in turn, it creates a lasting relationship. Staff retention outcomes are there, and it just kind of makes your life a lot easier if you're being nice to people, I feel like. So much of the chalk, the money, marbles determine what motivates my team members, because they're all going to be motivated by different pieces here. And then one of the last slides here is just kind of taking all that back and looking at what is your roadmap. And a few takeaways from when we first started this almost an hour ago is each company is going to be different. We know that, but the MDS is the same. It is a universal language. It is the same in every single nursing facility. Every single nursing facility must use the same format, et cetera, et cetera. So the MDS is the same universal language. Your car may look a little different, may have a different, a paint job, but that MDS is the same. So think about, we all are sharing a common goal here, a common outcome, because we're all using the same tool in order to be able to get that outcome. I have an extremely supportive owner of Creative Solutions. I'm very lucky to be able to work with such amazing people. But you can also have your own ownership piece of your MDS division. So you can be your own owner of your MDS department to drive your outcomes and change the culture. And again, give yourself credit. Completing an MDS and being an MDS case manager and doing the work we do, it is a unique skill set that requires a ton of passion and a ton of love. And if this is what your love is, this is what really motivates you and gets you up in the morning and you just dig it like I do, give yourself credit. And then that helps you then be able to implement any changes that need to occur within your nursing facility, and understanding what role you have and what role you play in the outcomes and what's on the windshield, right? Every piece that you're looking at throughout the windshield. And we talked earlier about writing 3 things down, or your priorities, or you got 5 things on a list, only do 3, whatever works for you. But here's one thing, write down 5 priorities for the next day. Mark those priorities off as you go. Doing that every single day will help you start your day in a very productive process. And then routine, rituals, doing the same thing over and over is extremely helpful. And that helps you start that morning on the right path with what your priorities are and what you know that you need to accomplish. And so for me, it's been very therapeutic being able to do that. And I find myself being able to accomplish the goals that I have set out. And at the end of the week, on a Friday, I can look back and go, okay, everything that I said I was going to accomplish this week, I was actually able to accomplish by being having rituals, having routines, having processes, and spending a little bit of time thinking ahead for the next day. So I hope that helps you guys. And if there's one little nugget, like I said, that is a takeaway for you, then it's an hour well spent. And I am extremely appreciative and thank you again for letting me share a little bit of time with you.
Kelly, thank you so much. Thank you for your passion, first of all, and your willingness to share your recipe for success.
It's fun. So
Love it.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. Is there another slide? Anything else you want to wrap us up with, Amy?
There's my contact information. There's my email address, and my organization that I work with, Creative Solutions in Healthcare, all in Texas, all over Texas, let's say that. So I'd be more than happy to help you if you need any help. Feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy.
Yes, thank you everyone for attending today, and a special thank you to Kelly and Susan. Just a fantastic presentation. As a reminder for everyone, the recording will be shared on the QRM website within 24 hours, and we'll be sure to send you an email notification as soon as it's available, so you can hop out there and share it with anyone who maybe didn't make it today, because it's lots of valuable information for your team. I also want to mention that QRM has several upcoming webinars to help you prepare for the October 1st changes, including one tomorrow in collaboration with Simple LTC. And that's wrapping up our music themed series. So we'll do the top 10 changes countdown for 10/1, and that will be at 11:30 Central Time. For registration information and to view the lineup of our other upcoming webinars, visit the events page on qrmhealth.com. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.